So for our project, we are working on these manifests. They are manifests of all the shipments that came out of the port here going to Louisiana with slaves during the 1800s. The goal of the project is to compile a digital copy of them that is legible and which can be used for further research.
I've been entering the names of slaves, the height, even their race. So far, the manifests that I have, my partner and I have finished is all of this, which has taken at least 5 months, and we're still going. Some of them will sometimes have like health notes, like this. It takes a long time to do it since it's older writing, and although you can make out some of the letters, it's hard to find out because, for example, with one of them I was working on, it took 30 minutes to figure out the word.
So when I get to the library, what I start working on is a slave manifest. And basically me and my partner, we have each sections that we do for each part. So I'll work on like the name, the age, the height, and the height in inches. And she'll work on the owner's name, the location, the ships, and the size of the ships, the type of the ship. Have 1,000 names that we have subscribed for 5 months.
The project is to help us document the Norfolk's role in the domestic slave trade. So from the slave manifest of the ships that sailed into New Orleans.
And he said that he had something like 17,000 names of enslaved African Americans who were shipped from here. And he said actually Norfolk had 30% of all export of slaves from the mid-Atlantic to the deep south came from Norfolk.
What I was hoping to do as a partnership is to give local students the chance to obviously work in an archival setting, library setting that they can actually do primary resource and research with history. A lot of times with our history we get the final product, but with this type of project it gives students a how do we make the sausage.
So we are a whole team because Troy is the archivist. He has the material. He researched that. He can guide us through this jungle of primary documents that nobody has ever processed. And he started the work. We have in school a professional historian, Dr. Anna Mirkova, and she's a researching scholar. She published a book, she published articles, she worked in a university setting, and the students are the research assistant. They do the actual groundwork of taking material, primary sources, and turning that into information. I just brought everybody together, and which is the idea of Montessori education, is to prepare an environment that will be optimal for work that will just evolve by itself.
Last year we worked on a history project involving the immigration of Jews from Russia and Eastern Europe.
So last year we worked with a list of Jewish family names, and we learned how to use the city directories, and we looked for our family's names. And once we found them, we were able to create a kind of spreadsheet that, showed basically the family tree of our family and, where they live and where they work. And then eventually we kind of I got through 3 or 4 different families. I basically covered 70 years of 3 families, and I was able to kind of develop my own narrative. I started with find a grave, and then I was able to find other people who weren't in the city directories, but they had a grave.
And this year we're doing a project involving the domestic slave trade, and in particular the shipment of slaves between Norfolk and New Orleans. So they're doing actually two of the very important tasks of the historians. One, of professional historians. One is they're processing documents that have already been obtained from an archive, and two, they're doing research themselves by looking at newspapers on microfilm.
Well, so far, besides transcribing the manuscripts, I've been coming over here as well to do some with the microfilm, and found a lot of interesting facts actually. While looking for the ships, I found a lot of interesting things. I found a article for an infirmary for slaves when I was looking out for Blaze Delight. I actually found something very interesting, which I didn't even think was supposed to be there in the first place, but an article about 7 runaway slaves running away to an island, which I cannot remember. But they are all native of different places.
And I think it's made the students more aware of the history of Norfolk. You know, the daily walks we take in the city are in a very different landscape from 100 or more years ago. So it's an opportunity for students to develop historical consciousness.
Tide. This is what happens when your teacher's a philosophy major. Literally talk about anything.
What was really difficult in the beginning was reading the names because of the old handwriting, and I know everybody really had a hard time with that for a really long time, but it's become a lot easier.
Some on microfilm you can see advertisements for the ships going and arriving, departing and arriving, that's the word I'm looking for, to and from their destinations. And sometimes you can even see some of the ships you've found. I've seen the James Monroe a few times, which was really kind of bizarre.
And you have the manifests from the same ship?
Yeah, I'm actually on the James Monroe right now. I also found, really interesting, a ship going to Liberia that was run by this colonization society, which I still do not know who founded it, that take freed slaves to Liberia for them to live as humans and not as property.
I find the overall process of the project interesting because every week we go through it and we're slowly adding more and more to it, so you get to see what the overall picture is over time.
I'm just personally I'm not interested in this kind of stuff, so.
What do you mean?
Learning about the slaves and all that isn't basically something I'm really fond of and interested in, how I am with horses. It's not a favorite thing of mine.
You don't find this topic exciting or important?
I think it's important because it happened, and it's not right that they were treated that way. So yeah, it's important, but it's not technically interesting.
Why is this a worthwhile project to be working on?
I mean, history is full of mysteries, and taking it one step at a time by researching areas and finding who's been there and what's been there might lead to something very interesting.
Because the different color of their skin,
Uh-huh.
they were treated a lot differently.
In what way were they treated?
They were being abused and used and owned. And then nowadays, legally, they're not being used like they're us.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I do feel that is important is the overall age. And what me and Summer do a lot is we go down the list and we select every single age, and then we put it to see what is it called? Average. We average it out, and almost 100% of the time, the average is somewhere between 19 and 16 years old, and then the average height is about like 4 or 5. And it's kind of, if you think about it, it's kind of depressing because most of us are 14 to 18 or 19 or whatever, and we're getting such great education and we're doing stuff and we have the freedom to do other things and not just work in some big field for some lazy white guy. It sounds hypocritical, but
Why hypocritical?
well, I mean, I'm white.
So what? You're not a slave owner.
True enough.
I mean, a lot of people were sold as children, so already not with their families. So I think for us as kids, we rely like on our parents, you know, and our family, you know, our elders to, you know, raise us. But I think that when you already have a full-time job and you already are alone, that you're automatically an adult already. You basically have to make decisions for yourself.
It became illegal to take slaves from Africa,
Uh-huh.
and so they had to kind of like recycle them, I guess you would say. Like they took like a lot of them from Virginia and up in this area and brought them down to where all the farms are.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I guess they just did that because it was illegal to like get them from elsewhere.
And why from Virginia to the deep south? Why was this channel?
Because we had a whole bunch here from when tobacco was popular, and then cotton became popular down there, and we couldn't really grow it as well as they could. So they sent a lot of slaves down there to bring, I guess, more production.
Mm-hmm.
It's a type of slavery in a way that, yes, you have to have an education, period. And that, coming to this school, it's like, it's a choice, so therefore, like, you choose, you know, whether or not you want to be a slave or not. But on the other hand, the school provides the
Safety.
the education for you. So it's not, you're not really choosing what you want to learn. You have that option additionally, but there are fundamentals, and there are like this project in particular, and like other things that we do at school that we don't have a say over. It's just what comes with the school. So yes, if you want to be at the school, you have to follow rules and guidelines, and if you don't follow the rules and guidelines, then you're not at the school. So yeah, in a way it is slavery because there is forced labor, but it's a choice, like we're choosing to do forced labor.
At least
It's more
not,
like indentured servants.
Yeah.
You know, they have a choice to come over,
well,
but they
didn't
know they're
really
going to do the work. But it's their choice. They're not forced into it.
Well,
but they kind of are once they're in it.
at Roadstead, I feel like, for me at least, I've chosen to work on engineering and designing and stuff, and I feel like that, at least, well, a few weeks ago, 50% of my time during work cycle was all put into designing things and engineering stuff, and breaking stuff apart and then putting it back together in a different way or something to see if it would work better. So I feel like that our road said you can definitely choose which direction you're going to go in. Because if you wanted to do art or whatever, I mean, I'm pretty sure you would let whoever would want to go into like artistic stuff, you would let them go online and look at art stuff during work cycle, right? If they got all their other work done.
Well, I think it's like I said, it's like you can invest in your own interests,
Right.
but at the end of the day, you're not there to. Okay, you're there to learn things that will help you invest in your own interests, but the benefit of being at this school is that you get to do both at the same time.
Well, also,
And I think that you have to make a choice as to what is more important, because if you spend most of your time investing in things that you're interested in, and you don't spend the time on things that you're not interested in, then in the future you won't be able to do the thing that you are interested in because you didn't do, which isn't entirely
necessarily.
true. Which isn't entirely true, but it is if you want to leave with a high school diploma.
Yeah. 'Cause
Or if
there's
you want
still
to,
requirements
yes.
for this school.
If you want to be a functioning adult, then you're going to have to learn how to do things that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
What is different in our project is that the students learn history not from textbook. They learn history by being part of history. They're part of history by walking through the same site where slave trade existed and creating research that never existed before. They do the historical practice. They know what it means to work as a historian, how tedious, how boring it is, how repetitive it is, but how important it is to go through this process in order to create knowledge that doesn't exist. So for them, learning about history is not reading in textbook and going to the text, is creating historical research, is creating historical narrative. So they don't only learn history, they make the history.